The Doc is In is sponsored by Amada Senior Care.
Fox 56 News Chief Medical Contributor Dr. Ryan Stanton is with us in studio.
Notice he has a little I voted sticker on his lapel there. This morning he is focusing on past commanders-in-chief and their health while in the White House.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody, make sure you get out there and vote. This is your voice today. But the question is, how do you combine health care, medicine, and voting? Well, let's figure it out. Well, our presidents of this United States have had a storied history of things that have happened to them, not all great. What about their health care history? So let's talk about some of the medical conditions experienced by some of our past presidents. Let's start with number one, first president, George Washington. Interestingly, George Washington, shortly after stepping down as president, after deciding that he didn't want to be a dictator, actually ended up catching sepsis, likely a sore throat, ended up with sepsis. But the question is, did he actually die from sepsis or the treatment of the time, which was bloodletting, in which they drained out about a half gallon of his blood? So we don't know for sure. Was it the sepsis or the doctors that killed him? The ninth president of the United States, William Henry Harrison, shortest tenure as a president in the history of the United States, 31 days, caught pneumonia, thought it may be from his 2-hour inaugural address. Timing doesn't really work out, but did cause a constitutional crisis because nobody thought about what happens when the president dies. 16th president. Everybody knows Abraham Lincoln. Well, he may have and likely had a connective tissue disorder. He was 6'4" or so, very thin and gangly. The thought was that he likely had a connective tissue disorder, but that never played out because of other circumstances, and we'll never know for sure. Our 22nd president, Grover Cleveland. Oh my goodness, what happened to him? Well, on the roof of his mouth, they found out he had a cancer, so they snuck him out onto his yacht, performed surgery, and hid him away until he had fully healed, none the wiser to the American public. Our 28th president, Woodrow Wilson. Well, even before he was president, he was suffering from strokes. In fact, if you look at some of the pictures of when he's signing legislation, his wife is helping him sign it because his hands didn't work well. In fact, during his presidency, he actually had a debilitating stroke that likely did impact the final years of his presidency. Our 32nd president, one of the most famous, and also one where our friends with the media helped him out because he had polio before he was president. Almost incapacitated, used a combination of crutches and wheelchair, but often he was propped up behind the podiums before the cameras came on in order to help him look like he was healthy and very functional. But he spent most of his time in a wheelchair. Our 34th president of the United States, Dwight D. Eisenhower, actually had significant heart attack and a bowel blockage from Crohn's disease that significantly shortened his opportunity for presidency and almost took him out. And finally, our 35th president, John F. Kennedy, one of the most famous in terms of the youthfulness and vigor of presidency. Well, he wasn't that healthy. Honestly, he had some of the worst back issues of any president that was out there, almost debilitated, often on crutches, and he also suffered from Addison's disease, which is a disease associated with the adrenal glands that likely would have shortened his life if it weren't for 1963, November 22nd. So there's a lot of things that are out there. The media actually did do a lot to hide a lot of those things back in the day, not so much now, but just because they're president doesn't mean they don't suffer from a lot of health issues as well.
Is there anybody that goes down as the most healthy of the presidents?
Well, I think a lot of the more modern presidents are going to be. I mean, you look at Jimmy Carter right now. He's now the cognitive decline and age-related, but 99 years old. I mean, he's coming up on 100 here very shortly. I mean, in terms of would he have been 100? So, you know, making sure that keep in mind that the healthier and healthier, and they actually have some of the best access to health care, minus George Washington.
Yes.
The more you know. I was only familiar with Henry Harrison's coat story.
The coat story. That's why you wear your hat and your coat and your gloves when you go for your inaugural address, everybody, and don't speak for 2 hours. Nobody wants to hear that.
You won't need that today at Will You Vote,
No.
though.
And eat a lot of peanuts. We're back with more after this.
There you go. Great Jimmy Carter reference.
Thank you.
You're watching live election coverage on Fox 56 News, your local election headquarters.